like a bright, sunshiny light. Thanks, David. Yeah. We're good. It's called the teacher time, right? We like conversations finish. They're important. I was just telling Kathy, this is called teacher time, when you know that there's important conversations going on and you let them finish before you get started. It's okay. There's no need to stress over it. Not that she was stressing. I don't mean it that way by any means. So good evening. Thank you very much for coming this evening and taking time out of your very busy schedules to once again, some of you are here for the second time, as you were here for the first one we had a couple weeks ago, to come and listen to us about things that are happening regarding a budget continuation for this next fall, potentially. We're going to talk a little bit to you today about what it actually is and what it currently funds for our school district. If you weren't here 2 weeks ago and you are interested in any of the handouts that we provided, please let us know at the end in the feedback form, and we're happy to get those to you, or welcome to go over them with you at any time. And that has to do with our current budget, which is actually online too if you're interested in it. We've had a few questions from there. 2 weeks ago, we started this endeavor of doing a 3-part series to talk a little bit about a budget continuation. In our first round, we just shared a little bit of information about PUSD, and more than anything, we appreciated the crowd that we had. I said I'd be happy with 25. This is not about my happiness. This is about getting information out. And we had over 50 show, and tonight I see at least we have over 25, so that's a good thing. With that being said, we did tape the presentation. Thank you, David, who's up in the box up here. And that is also online on our website, as well as we provided the slide presentation. And we will continue to create a question and answer sheet of questions we had. We had only about 5 or 6 questions, a couple from the audience, and then a couple that were written within the feedback form. Some of those questions we will answer on the 3rd meeting, which is on the 25th, in more detail. So to start off tonight, Kathy Manning is also going to be presenting, as well as Audra. And as you know, if you were here the last time, and those of you who are in the district, Kathy Manning is our current Director of Business Services. She is retiring with us, and Audra is our incoming business services, who is her right-hand person in the office. So they will be having a part of this presentation as well. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Kathy and do you remember the little, we gotcha, in terms of, yes, enter. And she's going to talk to you a little bit about what actually a budget continuation is and what dollars amount it currently brings into our district. Always, if you want to dive deeper, all you have to do is ask, and we are happy to meet with you to give you more specifics. So Kathy Manning.
Thank you, and thank you for taking time out of your busy evening. Okay, what is a budget continuation? The budget continuation is also referred to as maintenance and operation, or M&O override. And this is a voter-approved funding that for Payson Unified School District. It supports people and programs. It does not mean that we are overspending our budget. So that's a misconception. School districts may ask the voters in the community for an increase of the revenue control limit. In our case at Payson Unified School District, that has equated to a 10% override of the base support level. And the override, if approved, is in place for a term of 7 years. Payson Unified School District has had a 10% M&O override in place since 2005, and the most recent authorization of that override reauthorization was in 2019. If it's not renewed, then we need to reduce our M&O budget by 1/3 per year for a period of 3 years. So 1/3 in the 6th year, 2/3 in the 7th year, and then it's phased out by the 8th year. Budget continuation is an extension or renewal of current funding. So it does not increase the tax rate, it continues the tax rate in our case. In the 23-24 most recent revised budget, our override is in the amount of $1,616,000. And it is currently funding an FTE, which is full-time equivalency, of 23.6 full-time employees. So that's not the number of position, that's the full-time equivalency. So it is actually funding more positions than that number. Some could be part-time and some are full-time. And the Payson Unified School District override actually supports, this is based on last year's expenditures. The board approves student-to-teacher ratios, which equates to 438,372, or 5.7 full-time equivalencies. It also supports dual credit and advanced placement classes that we are fortunate enough to offer. And we pay about $83,200 for that, and it's a little bit less than 1.5, 1.5 FTEs. A significant amount of our override actually supports the special or electives and co-curricular offerings. That's just under $800,000, and it's almost 14 full-time equivalent positions. Our community is very fortunate to have those offerings for the high school students. The academic intervention support actually is over $300,000 of the override supports academic intervention, or almost 3 full-time equivalent positions. And with that, I will turn it over to Audra Bailey.
All right, we're on the right slide. PUSD uses the M&O override funds to keep our teacher-to-student class size ratios low. Our school board has the following approved ratios that we have up here. First kindergarten is 1 teacher for 20 students. First grade, 1 teacher for 25 students. Second and third grade, we have 1 teacher for 27 students. Fourth and fifth, 1 teacher for 29 students. 6th through 8th grade, which is our middle school, we have an average of 1 teacher per 31 students. And 9th through 12th grade high school, we have an average of 1 teacher for 31 students. We do review enrollment and class sizes on a weekly basis following an approved formula, and we analyze if we need to add additional teachers as needed. The student-to-teacher ratio is one of the strongest indicators of student success and engagement, resulting in better test scores, lower dropout rates, and higher graduation rates. Okay. This is a listing of our current dual enrollment classes, and through the M&O override, PUSD is able to fund the dual enrollment classes for our students. Students in the dual enrollment classes get high school and college credit. And we'd like to give a big thanks to the Aspire Foundation. They're a local 501c3 who raises money to offset the cost to the expenses to the students on the college, for the college credits that they earn. The ability for our students to take dual enrollment classes gives them the opportunity to graduate high school with an Associate of Arts degree. And the dual enrollment classes also give them a higher weight when we're calculating their GPA. We also offer AP classes online for our students through Edgenuity. The AP courses also add weight to their GPA, and it allows students to take specialized classes that may not ordinarily be available in rural communities. Together, the dual enrollment and the AP, how do I go back? Huh? Okay, I thought I had another slide. Through these offerings, it allows our students to apply for scholarships, and we're proud that our most recent graduating class of seniors in 2023 were offered a total of scholarships of $3.4 million in scholarships. Many of our graduates have returned to serve our community as doctors, nurses, teachers, and entrepreneurs. If you want more information about the dual enrollment and AP offerings, you can reach out to the high school counseling center at Payson High School. And now I'll move the slide, and I'm going to turn it over to Linda Gibson, and she's going to talk about how the override helps to fund special programs, electives, and co-curricular activities.
All right. This is the best part. They let me have the fun part because it has direct impact when we talk about what students are actually doing. When we, as you saw in the previous slide, the bulk or a large percentage, just under $800,000, is spent from the override on specials, electives, and co-curricular. Why do we term it that way? When you talk at elementary, when they go to choir or to band, elementary teachers refer to that as specials. When they go to PE, that's a specials within the program. When we get to the secondary level, we term that more as elective courses. However, some of those elective courses, such as band or choir, are considered co-curricular because there are things that they do outside of the classroom that also have a part within their school grade. So we're going to talk a little bit about specials, electives, and co-curriculars. The first that is significant is some specific fine arts. Not all fine arts, but some specific. And I want to talk a little bit about band and give a shout out to some of our teachers when it comes to some of these specials. If you have yet to meet Alan Simpson, you are missing out. Alan Simpson not only teaches, I'm going to talk a little bit about why beginning band, but general, advanced, jazz, and marching band. I don't know if any of you have ever watched marching band rehearse on the blacktop in July in the football parking lot. I've one time stopped by and I was like, how many of them are you? You need like an ice cream break, I'm coming back. Because they are out there not only having to stand, how many of us can stand in a perfectly straight, right, without a hitch in our giddy up, for that length of time while playing music, much less also walking at the same pace as the person in front of you. I don't know about you, but impossible for me, I know that. Alan Simpson also came to the table after discussing with his high school students. The question was, why do you think that we have fewer students in marching band that maybe there were years ago, and how can we increase that? Those students said, well, we don't have fifth grade band anymore, was some of the responses. So he came to the table saying, how do we get fifth grade band back? And it was because of him that it's back. One of the beautiful things at the district office is they currently have class in the boardroom, so we get to hear, and they are progressing. Today was beautiful. I did hear one get a little off, but we are from one note to about 5 or 6 notes now in the district office. So we are very much enjoying that and appreciate his efforts. It has affected music, I have to say, in 5th grade, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there are 80 5th grade students who chose to take band this year. So very, very impressive. Not only, let's talk a little bit about choir. Choir, and I have an error. I told Audra and Kathy, I was like, man, how many times do you look at something and you don't see the error? But my error here is grades K through 12. Our choir classes are actually at the middle school, however, that are paid through the override. However, choir is offered at the elementary school level at Julia Randall. However, the override does not cover that, so I just want to make sure that's very clear. Beth Christensen at Julia Randall, Tasha Eliason at PES. If you, again, have ever experienced a Christmas concert wow, right? I know you have with your children and probably had a different teacher or leader conducting that, but it's quite impressive when you can get a whole 200 second graders on stage, again, standing still with their hands beside them or in front of them and singing just absolutely beautiful music. There's nothing more precious than children singing. Our choir also, Emma Ruth Seiler at Rim Country Middle School, she's second year to us. I like to say that we stole her from across the country where she came from back east. She has definitely sparked our choir program at the middle school significantly and also is competing at this time with her middle school students, also working to continue to grow our high school program. Music, choir, and band. All of us know that music touches our souls. We also know that music is a huge impact on people who face dementia or Alzheimer's. It has been said that when music is played, memories come back. And I think all of us, some of us a little older than others in here, can listen to music and go back, I remember that in high school, or I remember that in middle school, or I remember that in elementary school, or I remember my mom or my dad playing this. So very significant when it comes to the override. Physical education. I'd like to think we all know that movement is a huge impact on learning. There's research that shows that the neurons actually strengthen and fire between each other that causes us to remember and have more resiliency, decrease stress. So the ability to stop and think with movement and play. You think about the times if you teach a child to sing ABCs with movement, or there's a tune to it or a song to it. So physical education is not just about team sports, as it was when some of us were in school, and learning how to play the rules of volleyball or basketball. It's about movement to exercise the body, to be able to exercise the mind. One and the same working together. Mandy Smith at Julia Randall Elementary School does an amazing program of parents coming in and working with students. It's super exciting when you can see not only our kids being excited about movement, but bringing their parents as well. We all know, what is it? We need to get 10,000 steps. How many of you guys check your watches every day to see if you got there or not? But bringing them together to also continue to have that communication between the two. Technology is not new. It's ever evolving. And one of the things that the override also covers is STEAM education and science, technology, engineering, arts, and music. I believe it was 2006 that arts was added to this acronym and to this piece of the puzzle. I don't believe there's an engineer out there or a scientist that can tell you that huge problems are solved without creativity. And that's where arts was brought in. So often you see people still say it's STEM, but it's actually STEAM. When we talk about academic interventions, we had academic interventions pre-COVID. We brought in more extensive interventions during COVID, and we've been able to maintain them even though finances that we've used in previous years of COVID, actually, let me back up there. The override has continued to provide those interventions pre-COVID, during COVID, and has allowed us to enhance as well when we talk about K-12. One of the boards, or the main board goal, is to increase literacy. And when we talk about literacy, we're talking about reading and writing. Some profound things that have been put in place within the last year or two. First one is Foundations at Payson Elementary School, where there's a stronger focus on phonics and reading, which if you follow kind of reading platforms of education, there was a step away from that, and now there's a push back to it. And those teachers there really working on that phonics structure, which some of us may have had when we were younger as well, but there was a step away from it. You may know that our state legislators also voted, or there's a statute now, that if you're teaching literacy at the primary ages, then, and I don't have the dates off the top of my head, I wrote it down, but I'm not good at following when I write it down. with that is that if you're teaching literacy, then there's an expectation to have a reading endorsement or literacy endorsement within a period of time, and I can give you those exact dates in a minute. Thank you very much, Leslie. Appreciate you having that for me. Within that, Payson Unified School District has taken that not just one step further, but many steps further. We've offered to our teachers as well as administrators letters trainings, which would suffice to achieve this reading or this literacy endorsement. It's a 2-year program. And within that, there's science of readings that tie to it, as well as when we talk about spelling and writing and so forth. The other piece that's really not a dollar amount tied to the override, but I think we're missing if we don't really take some time to talk about what Payson values are and what we see within the Payson culture, and seeing it emulated within the PUSD culture. And when I say that, K-12. We live in a community, and I said it 2 weeks ago, that is extremely service-oriented. The saying of service above self, and the power behind that phrase and what it brings to the person providing as well as those in receiving. When we service, and I say this often, especially when somebody's in a hard time, is how can we help, right? And often it's not about giving to that person, it's the person being able to feel as though they've contributed. We've had several stakeholder meetings about moving, I shouldn't say moving because it's not, and it's not changing, but adding to the high school graduation requirements a volunteer component. Within that, not only does it benefit the student, it benefits the community, it benefits the connections that we make, as well as potentially servicing organizations. On the student level, one, it allows them an opportunity to see what do I really want to do and what do I not want to do. But it also helps them to formulate a stronger resume or even college applications, or even in that sense, scholarship applications, where often sometimes kids may not, because of their other busy lives with sports or athletic or other activities within their families, to be able to build a stronger resume. So hopefully that's one of the strongest intentions of doing so, but also to build those connections within our community. Duty and honor. We live in a community that is very, very committed to our country and is very committed to our veterans. Last year on our Veterans Remembrance Day at Julia Randall Elementary School, I tell you, it was extremely powerful when they did the flag rising outside of Julia Randall Elementary School. And that morning, veterans in uniform and veterans out of uniform were helping children get out of their vehicles. Tears to your eyes. However, it didn't stop just with that. What also, Julia Randall had all of their students out front, in front of the flagpole, and they asked previously, if you have a family member who has been in the service or who is in the service, bring a picture. And the question to those students there and those faculty members was, please raise your picture of your family member. There were well above, way more than half of the students that rose a picture above their head as somebody who has served our country. And it's powerful to see our youth recognize what that means, even though sometimes it's far from them, but to recognize there's power in unity and there's a reason for the democracy that we have in our country. I had a question about a month and a half ago, and I chuckled in my mind. It was from a rather prominent person in our community, and he called and he said, I just have to ask, because somebody asked me. And he said, do you say the Pledge of Allegiance? And I said, yes, we say the Pledge of Allegiance. Yes, we have a moment of silence. And if you stop over at Westerly Preschool, and we've also expanded back to Julia Randall, you will also see our preschool students learning the Pledge of Allegiance as well. We are a community that works together. We continue to work together, and the more that we do in supporting each other, the more powerful we are. I was at a chamber board meeting last night, and I know, where are you? Myers. Yeah, where are you? She's in here, right there. Thank you, Miranda. I wrote the statement down because I was like, that's so powerful. And it was that an incoming tide rises all ships. And we were really just talking about how entities, if they promote one another, one promotes one, which in turn promotes them back, that we all rise to the top. And again, our community is about bringing us all together and us all being proud and prideful of who we are and what we do. It's not just about living in Payson. It's just not about, I used to say in college, the Paysonites, in that sense, but it's about being a true Longhorn and a true community member who's willing to go above and beyond their self to give to others. I mentioned just a few of our entities within our community or their emblems up here. I know we have the Rotary track meet that's been going on for 53 years. That is years of members in our society that continue to contribute either financially or in manpower for that track meet to go on. Mogollon Sporting Association, dollars, energy, time, and effort within multitude of programs. Kiwanis Club, scholarships, activities, supporting and celebrating teachers, faculty, and staff. MHA, our AVID program, helping to fund an athletic trainer for our athletic programs. The town of Payson in collaboration of working together, Parks and Rec with our school districts. And Green Valley Water, who most recently made a large contribution to help support tournament fees for for all of our athletic programs. This is not all by any means. This is all that would fit on one page, on one line. So if I offend anybody by something not being on there, please excuse me for that, because that is not my intention. It's every single one of us in here, as well as the organizations that we belong to. The piece on here also in working together, we take very much pride in where we live, and our homes are a part of that. And there is a strong relationship between the quality of the school district, which also ties to funding, and our value of our homes and where we live. And if you're interested in the research, I'm happy to provide for you, but it's about all of us coming together. And the budget continuation ties to you as voters and those in our community to contribute and to see that value within our students as we continue on. To summarize things up, each year the override supports significant academic and special programs necessary, and I mean necessary, for a comprehensive quality education that's attributable to academic excellence. I want to share that academic excellence looks very different for every single one of us. We can say academic excellence is our district being an B or an A. We could say academic excellence is a child moving from earning a 60% on a state test, I'm totally making this up, to a 65. That could be academic excellence. So to assume that it means one thing is false. We are all striving for academic excellence for all of our students and for Payson Unified School District. 100% of the override funds go into the classroom for salaries and benefits, and 0%, and it's important to remember that because we get questions often about the cost of administration, 0% of override funds are spent on administration. If you don't mind taking a moment to take out your phones to this QR code and answering, there's just 3 questions, I think I'm right, if I remember right, that we made. There might be 4. And I'll give you just a minute if you don't mind doing that. Even if you were here on the first one, we'd appreciate it if you continue to do this as it's different, even though it's going to look almost the same from last time. Leslie, thanks again for the shout out of remembering the year. Appreciate it. This is like Ferris Bueller's, you know. Anybody? No, not there yet. Don, you can still do the feedback, even though I know you just came in. As I single you out there, huh? All right. We are open to taking questions, but prior to doing so, I want to make sure that you have our contact information. I'm going to flip to a slide and come back to this, and I'll put it back up as we take questions. Our next information meeting is Thursday, April 25th. We're same time, same place. We will be talking about if the budget continuation, first of all, if the board doesn't call for it on May 13th, that's one piece, and I'll talk just a minute about that. But what's the potential to Payson Unified School District losing if the budget override does not pass by voters? How cuts have impacted other communities that we've seen, and impacts of large class sizes, and what potentially we could be facing if the override does not pass by voters. Go back. I'll leave that up and